Hello, I'm Christine from What's Up Cupcake Whimsical Crafts, and welcome to my channel. It has been a busy week, lots of crochet, non-crochet, some like small business administrative stuff. So just wanted to catch up on some of those activities. So I've got my iced coffee. It's a Saturday morning. It should be a quiet weekend, which is a nice change. I've had travel, which led into a fury of market prep and then a market last weekend. So now I'm trying to replenish some of my inventory. My dog is here, Una. Replenish some of my inventory in preparation for my next market, which is the first weekend of May, and it should be a good one. And I have some thoughts about how I'm preparing for that market, but that's going to be in the next video. So we'll talk about a few of the items though that I've been making this week in preparation for that, and also updating my shop with a new launch or additional launch. I finally was able to really dive into completing the rest of the items that I wanted to load into my shop. So if you link in my description, it details my What's Up Cupcake Canvas site, where it links to both my Etsy shop, which I'm putting some things on there just to kind of test the waters, since I know Etsy has more of a dedicated shopping base, though it is harder to grab their attention and there's a ton of fees. But also I have my own Shopify, so some of the items will also be on there in addition to a bunch of items that are not going to be on my Etsy. So I have amigurumi sticks, stitch markers, safety eyes, and by the time this video goes out, those should all be updated fully and the stock should be fully stocked. The shop should be fully stocked. Yes, that is correct. So with that, I am going to do the giveaway I've been talking about. That is going to be linked on my Instagram account, where the main like entries and everything will be. So go ahead and check out my Instagram account, where I will have details about getting the opportunity to enter that giveaway to win a couple of different bundles of an assortment of items from my shop. So I'm really excited about this. Going to try and keep it as easy as possible, maybe have it open for a week and a half. I haven't decided yet as of the time of this filming, but by tomorrow I probably will be. I keep looking out the window, one, because I'm nosy, but also because I think that like I'm seeing things out of the corner of my eyes. Lots of people walk up and down this street. It's a big hill. There's no one there. My neighbor across the street has a car in their driveway, and that's what's throwing me off, because they don't normally have a car at the top of their driveway. I know. I'm nosy. Let's dive into some of the things that I wanted to talk about today. I have a little list because I didn't want to miss anything. But was going to talk about some of the things that happened in general this week with the pattern testing that I've been working on. I do work full-time. It's mostly from home. I do go into downtown Raleigh, North Carolina, sometimes for my day job, and it's just been a strenuous couple of weeks since I got back from vacation. I am a firm believer in needing PTO for your PTO, because being gone for a week, I've just had so many emails and tasks to catch up on. It's end of quarter, which if you're in the corporate world, familiar with the corporate world, can be nothing or it can be huge. In my line of work, it's huge. So there's a lot that's been going on. But beyond that, just trying to settle back into normalcy. The kids are back in tennis. That's where they are right now, actually, is a tennis lesson, but they've had competitions or matches. I'm not a sports person. Tennis might be one of the sports I know the most about, if we're not considering like Irish and Scottish dancing a sport, which I know a lot about both of those. But for tennis, they have had matches pretty much every weekend when we've been in town. This weekend there are shockingly none. It is a holiday weekend, but that doesn't always stop our coach from finding ways to do makeup matches and things. He is delightful, but he's very excited about tennis. And so we don't have tennis aside from them doing tennis practice this weekend. They have it alternating every day during the week because, of course, they're two different ages and it couldn't be like just Monday, Wednesday. It's one of them is Monday, Wednesday, the other is Tuesday, Thursday. Sometimes their makeup's on Friday because I live in the South and we get a lot of rain during this season. And yeah, it feels like we're doing tennis every day. So, you know, shuttling them around. In addition, I had some fun, like little bookish talk because I've talked about it a couple of times on here before. It seems like some people might be interested in book talk. I won't keep it long because it's hard to talk one-sided with that. Of course, I love comments and discussion in the chat as well as on my Instagram. So, you know, let's talk books. But I went to an author signing event this week. In Raleigh, we have this really amazing small independent bookstore. It's not super small, I guess. It's a lovely venue, storefront. But they do author signings a lot. I went with some girlfriends to this book signing. It was for the third book in the Maid series by Nita Prose. I've only read the first book, but I really enjoyed it, and I have plans to read the second book. I have it on order from the library, Audible, because I can crochet and listen at the same time. But I did get the physical hard copy of the book, so I will show that in a little bit, but I'll show a little clip from the author signing. It was a sold out event and it was really fun. I like to go to those once in a while. Sometimes I don't even necessarily know the author, but I know of their work, and I just like getting exposed to like new books. I kind of read everything. I'm a little picky, or a lot picky, but I do like a lot within the fiction genre, and then also autobiographies and things like that. But I like the series, and I like going to events like book signings because I think it's really fascinating to hear from the authors directly, and I like to support our small independent bookstores. This one is delightful. It actually is the bookstore that does my kids, or did my kids' school book fair this past year, because I have been living my dream of being able to run the Scholastic Book Fair for my kids' school. I've been doing it now for, I think this is my third year. I did it shared before I took it over completely. The first year we did Scholastic, it was fine. There were some concerns, not crazy about some of their policies, and that you're limited to just Scholastic selection and reorders, all that stuff. There's a lot of things with Scholastic, but overall, we did it with Scholastic. It's very successful for our school. Last year, we did it with this independent bookstore, and it was great. We had more control over the books that we got, including just having a more diverse selection of books in many ways, not just being Scholastic, but overall. So that was really great. And yeah, this upcoming year is going to be my last year running the book fair, which I'm sad about, but also thrilled because it is a lot of work. And again, I have a full-time job, so it's 1 week of volunteer work that I do that's very intense the week of, but it's a lot of work leading up to it, especially in the beginning of the school year and then, you know, as we're approaching it. But I always wanted as a kid to do the Scholastic Book Fair, and I made it happen, so yay. But I'm happy to hand it over to the next person. It is what it is. I've moved on from that stage of my life. I did back in the day, I've done like every retail job. If you want to talk about folding shirts, wrapping up housewares, organizing books, I worked in like every department of Barnes & Noble back in the day, from being a bookseller to the music department to receiving. I worked there for several years. I digress. All right, other things I wanted to chat about though, Michaels. Michaels isn't going to sponsor me anytime soon. We have a Michaels really close to my house, and the staff is wonderful. the store is horrible. They do not have anything stocked on their shelves. Oftentimes it's just boxes upon boxes in the middle aisles and or in the back or whatever. I will go to order something because it says there's like 10 in stock, and I will get a, store pickup notice saying out of stock, not available, couldn't find. And having worked in retail for very long, I know there's a lot of factors going into that. It's not completely on the employees. They could be very short-staffed. They may not be allowed to staff the sufficient number of people to do all of these tasks. Those tasks might be, they might be assigned to focus on other tasks like registers, things like that. There was like a brief flickering moment when they got the self-checkout stations where I feel like they allowed for more employees to be in the store to both do checkout, which wasn't as needed as much, but in case there were issues with the self-checkout, but where like things were getting stocked again, and it was amazing. But it seems it's back to its normal standard of nothing on the shelves. It has 2, maybe 2.5 aisles, just aisle, and then the other side is notions and fabric. So it's not a huge yarn selection in general already, and I could be misremembering. It might be one full pair and then one single. Never stock in them. It's always kind of a mishmash of stock. 3/4 of the bins are empty. I was devastated with the Joann's news for many reasons. I have a long history with Joann's. If you go to my old What's Up Cupcake blog, I used to do sewing of my own clothes and just sewing in general. I started with a quilt and was like, where can I go from here? So I am a Jane of all trades, master at none for crafts, and sewing was very much my thing for a few years, and I lived at Joann's. And Joann's had reasonable pricing and deals in my eyes. I could always find a coupon. I could always find a sale for what I was looking for. If I didn't, I'd wait a week. My Michaels, I've noticed especially recently, it's gotten harder to find coupons unless you're buying online for store pickup or buying online for delivery. But in store, when I'm there, I have the app. It's been more frequent that there are no coupons available when I go to shop, and the sales have been a little sparse, at least for yarn and some of the other things I'm looking for, but it hasn't been great. Well, diving into the world of Michael's pricing, I had hoped that with Joann's, this was very naive of me, with Joann's closing, I had hoped with Joann's closing that Michael's would step up. They'd be like, look at this opportunity at this market of crafters that need an outlet. Let's step up. They've stepped up in raising their prices and taking away coupons. Correct me if you work at Michael's. Let me know. Am I wrong? I have been looking into this because I've had a very hard time finding coupons, and Michael's does carry some of the yarns that I want, mostly if I'm shopping online. To be honest, again, my store never has anything in stock, so I don't even bother trying to get things from my store at this point, unless it's like a paper product. But yarn, it's hopeless. They had Feels Like Bliss for a hot minute, and then it was gone. So from Michael's, I generally do just get Feels Like Bliss, and there's like one or two. I think Bernat Mystical is not easy to get there, but that's where I can get Bernat Mystical. So that's what I have used Michael's for, and primarily online. But apparently, according to the Michael employee chatter, I am not one to go down like the Reddit rabbit hole generally, but Michael employee Reddit has had a lot of details in the receipts to back it up that they're doing away with in-store coupons. So now your app will very rarely, if ever, have in-store coupons. And they are raising the price this past week. That Reddit has been blowing up with frustrated, unhappy employees because corporate is setting some crazy goals and deadlines on them of raising the price of 25,000 plus items in stores all week to get it done by a certain date. And that doesn't surprise me. The Michaels, whenever I shop there, the Michaels by me, I'm like, my jaw has dropped sometimes when I see the price of things. I mean, their Bernat yarn is astronomical as regular price, but then it's on sale sometimes. This isn't meant to be a Michaels bash session, and I understand the economy. All of these retailers are going to be impacted by the things currently going on. You can say buy Made in America all you want, but if you're shopping a lot of these craft supplies like yarn, they're not coming from the US. So on the Reddit, some are saying that Michaels has officially communicated its price raises because of tariffs. I don't know if that's the case. To be honest, for Michaels, I think they're just raising the price because it's Michaels. And I have seen them raise the price and then advertise lowest pricing around, or like price match. Well, there's no one to price match them anymore by me. You know, Joann's is gone, and I used to be able to say, look at the price on the Joann's app versus the Michaels app. Well, now I can't. So, you know, I'm going to have to hold on to coupons, and being in store, that's not going to happen. So I will just be buying from online when I have to, but I'm just going to try and honestly take my business to other places. So there's Hirschner's, Mary Maxim, Yarnspirations. They all have Bernat. I don't know where else to get Feels Like Bliss. So I did do a order recently just to kind of get my stock set up, because I don't know how much more they're going to raise the price. But the price is definitely higher than when I ordered it maybe 2 months ago. And I was able to use a coupon online, but it was like $1 or $2 higher than when I last ordered it as the regular base price. And from what I understand, they did get in trouble because they do the thing which I see Kohl's do all the time of, here's the regular price, it's on sale though, or our price is this, or whatever, where it's never actually that price. Though again, with Michaels, I feel like it's hit or miss whether or not I can find a coupon when I'm shopping in store. So are you all seeing that with your Michaels? I get very jealous sometimes of other YouTubers who share like their shopping experiences at Michaels, and their Michaels are well stocked and beautiful. Mine is not. One of these days I'll film when I'm in there. I always go in with the intent that I'm just going to like film the yarn aisle so you can see what a depressing mess it is. But by the time I get to the yarn aisle, I'm just disappointed and want to leave it. So I never film it. And now I don't want to even go in there because I'm cranky about it. So if I go in there, I'll do a little video of the sad little yarn aisle at the one by me. There's another one a little further away, and I feel like they have a little bit more selection, but not by much. And again, like if the shelves have any inventory on them. And again, I'm not saying it's the employees at the store's fault, because I don't know what their tasks are that they're being asked to do, you know, if they're given enough hours to even stock. Based on all of the chatter this week, they're being told that they have to have the 25,000 items repriced and on top of inventory and everything by the end of the week, and it's like without really additional support. So again, this is my personal feelings and thoughts, and it makes me sad because I do have a huge craft store by me that I would love to give my business if I could afford to, because their pricing is astronomical, if they had inventory on the shelves, because they never do. And yeah, I mean, really, those would be the main things. Like, I do go there from time to time, especially when like a market's coming up and I think I might need something, or I need a new display and maybe Michaels has it, because I don't shop at Hobby Lobby. We have one in our area that opened maybe a year ago, maybe a little over that, and I'm not a fan for many reasons. But Joann's are gone, or at least from what I've seen. I haven't ventured into them since the closing has been announced, since I know it's not the the Joann's from before, and a lot of this stuff is being shipped out to other stores like Ollie's and things like that, which I think we haven't. I'd never heard of Ollie's until we moved to North Carolina, but I think we have one, but it's like 30 minutes away, and I don't really want to gamble with like what yarn they might have. I'm also trying to like veer away from Bernat. This is all Elise Voluto, and this tower and some of the shelves is, or the cabinets is Premier. And that's pretty much my go-to at this point. I do have a lot of Bernat still that I'm working through, but I just don't reach for it like I used to anymore. The quality is inconsistent depending on which type of Bernat I'm getting, and I don't mean like Bernat Baby versus Bernat Blanket. It can be 2 skeins of Bernat Blanket held side by side, and it could be completely different. So, you know, if it's the tweed, I like the tweed. I like the mystical for the colorway. I do feel like the yarn can feel kind of thin at times, if that makes sense. Like, it's a blanket yarn, but it's not fluffy and soft. Like, it's still soft, but not compared to tweed, for example, or some of the other ones. So I use what I need to, and I try to ensure that the quality is at least there for the products that I want, but it's just hard in terms of availability and, you know, consistency at this point, especially if I'm ordering online. I don't know necessarily what I'm going to get unless I've ordered it before, and then that's also hoping that this is one of like the batches that I like, or the variation that I like. There's my tangent. It is beautiful outside today. It's going to be hot. It's going to be in the 80s, which I'm not completely mad about. I love a 70 to 80 degree day. Once it hits 80, I start to like wilt. Especially here in Raleigh, it gets so humid. So the humidity is starting back up. The pollen has been intense, though I do feel like it's a little less. I don't want to jinx it. We've had some heavy rain a few days, which is like the spring routine of we get like a massive dump of pollen where you will drive down the street and you'll see clouds of it like coming up as you're driving. You can see your footprints in the pollen. Like, that's how thick it is. But we'll get a massive dump of pollen and then it'll rain. Massive pollen, rain. So since the last rain, I haven't seen like a coating up here quite like it has been, and like our cars aren't coated. I should drink more of that coffee. So hopefully the pollen reckoning is leaving. But yeah, so been trying to get outside a little bit more, taking Una, my pup, out. She loves it. I mean, not the pollen, but she loves being outside. So trying to get out at lunchtime for some walks, especially when I'm working from home, especially because it's going to get really hot. So the walks are going to happen in the mornings, and then they just might not because it gets really muggy really fast. I want to share a couple of things that I've made this week. Just been trying to both replenish some things that I have not replenished in a season. So in the fall, I had just jumped into markets and had not a curated list of things that I made, but very much like a standard kind of assortment of products that I had, and I was working on replenishing. And as it got to the holidays, some of those items just fell off of my inventory radar because they were less holiday market appropriate in my eyes, or might have taken more time, or whatever it might have been. But one of those items is the rainbow pillow from Baubles and Blooms. I had brought this pillow to, I think, my very first market. I had several of them. I think 4 is the most I ever have in inventory at one time. It is a great pattern. Very easy. You just have to keep up with all of the increases as you're making the rainbow arch. And when I first started with this pattern, I was newer to crocheting things other than blankets and flat objects. So while this is generally 2 pieces being attached, this stitch. It's a third loop only stitch, and it looks really cool. It gives this like raised, kind of pushes out the edge, but I hated doing it. I picked up this pattern for the first time in months, and I didn't hate it as much doing that stitch. So overall, I love doing the pattern, and it's so satisfying. It does not take as long as one would think it would. I mean, it's definitely probably a couple hours, just you're doing the 2 panels. I only do that stitch on the first or the front side. The back side is flat, and she says that's an option. So I actually made 2 of these, which was not my intent. I intended to make multiple of the pillow, just in different colorways, but I made them, the 2 panels, only to realize I had done that stitch on both panels, and I was so annoyed with myself. Like, I did not go through making this to do that stitch twice, especially when I could, when you do the back panel and you don't do that, I feel like it comes together 10 minutes faster, but it's far more satisfying in my mind in terms of like completion. Girl math, I don't know. So I was like, well, I guess I'm making 2 of them. So I did, but it was kind of nice because I was able to get through a bunch of my Bernat blanket, because that's what I used to make this. And it ate up quite a bit of it. Just, you know, they're hefty pillows. And I had them for my inventory. I've already sold this colorway before, and it draws people in. I think it's a really pretty colorway. I do want to make another one. I already, at the time when I was planning to make multiple pillows of multiple colors, I had pulled out the colors to make another one that was more like boho, like neutrals. So I need to do that, but I'm going to give myself a break from the pillows just until this upcoming week. I'll probably make the other variation, and maybe I'll make 2 of them again because I'm a glutton for punishment. Oh, see, Walker. I'm not like completely nosy, but usually, again, it's just like I see something out of the corner of my eye and I want to know what it is. Because it could be a bug. I'm in the South. It could be a bug. So made 2 of these, which is a very satisfying make, but it does take longer. Basket toss. Made it. It does take longer. So one of the things with having done so much market prep over the last 6 months is there's something really satisfying about doing 100 little things. And so then when you do like one big thing, it's kind of anticlimactic, but it was very satisfying to get that done. And I'm very happy with them, and I'm happy to have those pillows back in stock for my markets, especially with it being spring. And then I'm going to have a little break from markets to really hunker down for the fall holiday season market prep. I felt like I was chasing my tail a lot this past fall, but I was new to this and was trying new patterns, was figuring out what worked, and was generally very successful. But I want to go into it a little bit more prepared this time with a lot of stuff made in advance, so I'm not scrambling after each market to replenish hundreds of things. So anyways, one of the other things I replenished, but with a twist, was little fuzzy bees. These guys look a little bit different because this is the Cozy Stitch Bumblebee pattern, but I modified it a little because I made this in Feels Like Bliss, which I'm getting to appreciate a little bit more in terms of working with it. It still can be finicky, especially on small items, but I love the results. But because it's that like fuzzy, sometimes details I think can get lost, and so I had to modify the Cozy Stitch pattern a little bit. I had to add an extra row in between, so I was like playing with it when I first did this one, and then this one I think is what they're going to look like going forward. But I also surface crochet the wings on because sewing with Feels Like Bliss is not my favorite thing to do. But I love how these guys turned out. They're a little bit smaller than my regular bees that I do in Bernat, but they will be the same price because, especially given my Michael's rant, Feels Like Bliss is now like $9 a skein. and it's not a huge skein. So I have to charge the same price for these, even though they're a little smaller. I do think they show their value just in like the fuzzy cuteness. So I have a few of these, and I did some flowers. I'm not going to show those right now. I'll show those in my next video just because I am kind of in between. I've done a handful of Junebug and James stemmed flowers, but I also have like the tops of a few others that I want to complete before I share those. Just logistics. Another thing I worked on this week was replenishing some chickens. They were, if you saw my last video, like my top seller in terms of quantity. So I want to replenish chickens, get some more basic colors in there because I think that was really what sold. I don't mark the chickens I have in my inventory or things like that where there's like a large variation of I just grab whatever yarn I have and make some. But I do try to have them in a bunch of different colors, like natural chicken colors. And then I have some like Stardew Valley chicken colors and some of those sold too. But I feel like a lot of like my creams and basic like white ones sold. Like I think I have some orange and black ones still. So I might make one or two more of those, but I'm working on replenishing my like neutral colored chickens, because it sounds like a lot of people are buying chickens right now. Another thing was 2 tester calls I've been working on. So the first one is from Woolly Tunes, and it is a Studio Ghibli pattern for Calcifier. She wanted it done in fur yarn for the primary, and she said fur or bliss yarn. So the first one I did in Feels Like Bliss. Isn't he so cute? So I did him in Feels Like Bliss, and then this is Elise Veludo. She wanted this pattern done in a fur yarn, and I used Feels Like Bliss, which doesn't have a good red. It's more pink. So I used the yellow and the orange, and I double-stranded the entire time. But with the layer that's supposed to be orange, the middle layer, I did, my double strand was orange and yellow to kind of like phase into the yellow. And then I just did like the lighter browns for the log since it's a more muted palette. This one is Burnout Blanket for the flame, and then Elise Veludo. No, actually, just kidding. This is all Burnout Blanket because I used taupe. I think that's what this color is, which was near impossible to buy for a while. And so when I would find it, I would stock up on it. And now I feel like it's in stock more. But again, I'm not using Bernat as much. And Premier and Elise both have a plethora of browns. So I was like, I should probably work through some of this collection. So this is Bernat Blanket. And then these two, the yellow and the orange, are Mystical. They don't have a mystical red. It's like more pink. So I did red because it's very vibrant. And then the logs are Bernat as well. But it's a super fast pattern and it's just so like adorable. If you haven't seen Howl's Moving Castle, highly recommend. But he is one of the characters in it, a fire spirit. And there's a blue variation too. I might make that. But just happy to kind of grow this collection of stuff from Studio Ghibli. Yeah, my little calcifier. I was able to finish up my second tester call that I had been working on. So if you recall, this was the one where I had some Bernat yarn that I was working through, and it's like the speckled, it's not the frosted variation, but it is like a, I don't even know how to explain what the yarn is, but I feel like it's very like mystical, whimsical looking. And I've just been waiting for like the right projects to use it for. I've done little things with it. And I think I did one of my Valentine shrimp or heart shrimp patterns in it. Not my pattern, but the pattern. I did a heart shrimp in it, and that shrimp gets so much love at my booth, and I already sold one of them, but the other one just, people just love it, and they're always like, it's a shrimp. So anyways, I had some of this green yarn, and when I got selected for this tester call by Bunny Crochets, it was pretty much the first thought I had was I wanted to do it with this Bernat blanket variety. I had one and maybe half, maybe 3/4 of the skeins of the yarn, so I had a good amount. And I actually crocheted this in a size 6 hook, which normally for a Bernat I would do 6.5 or 7, but this one, it's super soft, but I feel like it's a little thinner, and it was very similar to the Elise Voluto that I've been using, so I decided to use a size 6 hook for it. And I ran out. I lost my game of yarn chicken, and ran out of it when I had done everything except for like the torso of the pattern. So I ordered some more from Hirschner's. I talked about this, I think, a couple of videos ago. It was supposed to come in, like it shipped out at a reasonable amount of time and was going to get to me much faster than expected. I think I posted my video on a Friday and I was like, it's coming on Monday. Well, FedEx, it got lost. It like got stuck in the Midwest. It hung out in Chicago for like 3 days. It was somewhere else for another couple days. And I was starting to lose hope. And I also knew that the tester call was coming to a close. So this pattern isn't out yet by the time this video goes live. It comes out, I think, a little bit later this week, maybe Friday. And I wanted to make sure I had feedback. I had been working with the pattern, all of that. So I did have a few skeins of this yarn in a different colorway. And so I started making that instead. The day that I was finishing up the second colorway, my order all of a sudden was like out for delivery. The last update was that it was in Chicago. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to hold my breath, but if it comes, fantastic. It did. So I was able to complete both. And I am so excited to introduce you to my children because they're huge. One second. This is Rosie. She is the size of like my torso. So this is Rosie. I'm holding her by the neck, which I probably shouldn't do, but she's just such a big girl. And I love her. She's definitely going to be like the showcase piece in my booth. I did the Bernat blanket for the body. Obviously, this was all the drama about getting this Bernat blanket. I did Premier Parfait in the glitter variation. So I don't know if you can see, but it has like the white with silver glitter. And then Elise Voluto for the flowers. I wanted the flowers to be really soft, and I feel like a lot of my solid colors of Bernat are not soft. So this is kind of a hodgepodge of yarns, but I am in love with her. And I think she is gorgeous and just wants to go hang out in the woods. But yeah, the pattern was like, honestly, and I'm not just saying this as a tester who has bias because I was chosen to test and I was overjoyed, but like this was really a delight to make. It was just really straightforward, even though it's huge. It wasn't that bad. Like I didn't feel like it was an insane amount of time for what I ultimately got out of it. And I've talked about this before. I do love the way of crocheting bodies where you make one leg and then you make the second and connect it to it, and then you just build up from there. That's like one of my favorite things. She cannot stand on her own, one, because she's 2,000 pounds. She's not, but I've been saving up. I have like a little trash can on my desk. It's not a trash can, but like it is. It's never been used for anything but yarn though. I got it at Target, and it's just like this big. It's this little white plastic flip top can, and I use it for my yarn scraps. I only put yarn scraps in there as I'm trimming things, and I will occasionally incorporate those yarn scraps into my polyfill when I'm stuffing things. So I was able to use up that entire bucket, which again, it's not huge, but it does fit quite a bit, in yarn scraps for her, to fill her up. And I also think that gives it a little bit more weight too. Like it's almost like a like the pellets. I don't know, something about the yarn scraps, and like they really compress down. So this is my first Rosie, the original, even though I did finish her first in the end, because my next one was finished completely, except I didn't like assemble all the flowers and everything on it until after I finished this one, because I just needed to be done with her just from all of the yarn saga. So this is my first child, and here's the second. This is my other Rosie. I don't know which, I mean, I love them the same, obviously. I love my children equally. But she's very vibrant too. Hopefully my smacking the little microphone with these ladies is not. I made both of these eyes, and these are actually going to be part of the eye drop that's going out today, or it's on my Shopify now. I love how both of these safety eyes came out too, with these lovely ladies. Again, ginormous. Every time my kids would walk into my real children would walk into the room and see me working on this, they'd be like, how big is that going to be? Pretty big. This, I did not use parfait. I used a Bernat frosting, I think, and it's the one that's kind of like a pastel color. It's in her pattern. She used white for like the vines, I think it was called. And I wanted to use white, but also being a tester, I wanted to do something like a little unpredictable. And I wanted to do like Bliss, Feels Like Bliss in the fuzz. But as I was doing it, I was like, I wasn't loving it. So that's why I did the two different colors for it. There are two different types. But yeah, I'm so obsessed with these ladies. They obviously do take some time. I want to say they took me 4 to 5 hours each. So again, it wasn't horrible considering how large they are. But like they were just really straightforward, and the assembly of everything was maybe 30 minutes, with like sewing on all the flowers and the braids and other accents. So I'm guessing I'll have these at my markets at like 120, which is by far, that's like double what I've charged for the highest price of anything, but it's huge. And if I post them online, obviously it'll have to be more than that just to make up for shipping and all that. But they took up 2 full skeins of Bernat blanket yarn, in addition to all the other accents, and then just the time alone, which if it's 4 or 5 hours, yeah. So that's just what I'm leaning towards. Anyways, I'm so happy with them, and it was lovely doing 2 tester calls over the last couple of weeks. Calcifier 2, my kids love that pattern, and I want to make some more of them. Yeah, I'm just kind of on a kick now of doing things that are really different, since my market season is slowing down a little bit, with my final market for the spring being in 2 weeks. I'm, frantically making things for that market to get restocked in general, also to be more focused on like kind of a final spring push. But then I'm going to focus this summer on a few things, including just majorly getting ready for the fall holiday season. I'm going to be doing a lot of batch makes and trying to crank out like as many of my bestsellers as possible, so that when the market season comes, when I would typically be like wiped out of something if I just had 6 to 10 of them, that I'm not going to have to like burn myself out again making things for the next market, a week or two later, because that is when I'll probably have 2 to 3 markets a month is my ideal plan for the fall. I mean, it's a short window. Like I consider fall here kind of October, November, maybe a market in September, but September is also really busy and it can be hot still here, like the remnants of summer in North Carolina, where you just have these like kind of freak really hot days, or it could be like hurricane weather or, like tropical storms and stuff. So it's a little unpredictable. And I do want to be able to stock up more on my Etsy and online shop. So yeah, that's the plan over the summer, but I do want to teach myself to, I currently do, is it like the knife hold of crochet? Yeah, I currently hold like this. I want to do this one. I don't know what it's called, but I want to learn that. I mentioned in Stacy Makes comments because she's talking about yarn under, yarn over technique. I do yarn over technique, and I've just been seeing a lot more stuff done in the yarn under, and it does make like a tighter stitch, and it makes your amigurumi, I think it's like a more traditional style to crochet amigurumi. So I'd like to look into learning that, as well as I want to teach myself the other hold. I'm curious if it might be faster for me. I don't know. I did back in the day when I was first learning knitting, I only knew English style where you throw it. And my friend who was like kind of teaching me knitting, like reading patterns and things, because I was just making like a knit purl scarf. She was a bit of a knitting snob, and she'd be like, you need to learn continental. And I was like, it's just not possible. My brain can't think that way. And I just forced myself to learn it. Like I taught myself how to learn it. So now I can knit both ways. And I actually do prefer continental. But it's been nice when I've been doing color changes, which I'm not great at in knitting. I made a puffin hat last year and it would not fit my head or a child's head. And so then I remade it with like super loose tension and it still will not fit my head or a child's head. So I'm working on it, but I was able to like quickly do it because I was going back and forth between different yarn colors, and that was fun. And I liked being able to try out both ways to determine which one I liked better. And like, especially too, if I maybe overdo it and holding the yarn needle or crochet hook would bother me in some instances if I can switch my grip. I mean, of course I'd rest first, but maybe if switching my grip helped, we'll see. So that's one of the things, or two of the things I want to do this summer, in addition to major restocks. And then also really leading into like more patterns that I have stocked up on and have not even touched. I legit have like 8 open tabs at any one given time of all of the patterns that I'm like, these are the patterns I'm going to do next. And it never fails that something pops up where I'm like, oh, hold on, let me open one more tab and open that pattern instead. So yeah, that's what I'm going for, and hopefully more pattern tests because I really did enjoy them. Um, I like the interacting with other crocheters, chatting through, what we're seeing in the patterns and like our thoughts on it. And then also just being able to kind of go in and like comment on aspects of the pattern that this is how I read this. Is this correct? Things like that. So, beyond that, the shout out that I want to do this week. So I guess I could have already just did Stacy Makes because I was watching her latest video of Market Makes and she had a really cute rhino pattern that she was testing for tabs, who is, I think, Safari Stitches. So there we go. We've got Safari Stitches. I really enjoy her videos. She's just very fun. I love her personality. She reminds me of a friend of mine. out here in Raleigh. And so it just brings a smile to my face whenever I see her videos, and, you know, she's fun. So, um, Traveling Pony Studios. I happened to stumble upon a live of hers this weekend, and it was just, I watch her videos regularly anyways, but it's nice to get her in like just a chatty, candid moment. If you don't follow her already, highly recommend her videos, especially. She has a um, stable where she cares for horses that are generally like hospice, more senior horses, and rents out spaces to, people for caring for them. And she has like a bazillion feral cats that she kind of like, not house breaks, but she acclimates them, and they're her barn cats. And I just love an animal lover. So um, she also was working on a really big project of a private label yarn that she was going to be distributing in, I mean, globally, but the US. And as you know, with tariffs, that is going to be a major challenge for businesses right now. And she's invested a whole lot of time and money into it. And she was just really sharing kind of her frustrations and what she's been dealing with and the amount of money she has put into this. And now it's kind of on hold because the stuff is going to get held up at the border and have major amounts of tariffs placed upon it. And if you, I see a lot of comments in other people's videos when they complain about tariffs of like, well, just buy things made in America. And unfortunately, that's not how supply chain works. I work in supply chain, and I've worked in it pretty much my entire career. Anything that you buy is part of a process. The dyes that are used, the raw materials used for goods, to get anything that is 100% made in one country alone is a challenge. And yarn, especially when you're getting yarn that we're using for like plushies and things like that, you're not typically finding something that is made in America. So when you're shopping at formerly Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Walmart, and getting these various like blanket yarns or worsted, whatever, acrylic yarns, it's not made in the US. So her yarn that she was getting was overseas, and it is going to be subjected to massive tariffs, and that is paid by the importer, which would be her. Or, if I'm ordering safety eye blanks, I'm so thankful. I ordered a huge amount of them just in the last couple of months because I was really ramping up and like making sure I had inventory so I would be able to paint safety eyes and not think like, oh, I don't have enough of this one. But I don't know when I can replenish it after that, because if it is, as of today, being subject to 125% tariff, that doubles the price then that I am paying, which might double the price that the end consumer is paying. It's just a lot. So, again, I'm trying not to rant about that completely, but it is something that I think people are going to be thinking about more. Again, going back to my Michael's vent earlier in this, while I think part of that is just corporate decisions, part of it is just reality also of this is where we are currently going based on what directives are being stated at the moment. It's a challenge, and it's going to impact more and more small businesses than I think many really fully understand. So, all that to say, going back to Traveling Pony Studios, it was just really lovely being on her live. It was sad at times because she was being very vulnerable with her emotions and what her goals were for this in terms of like being there for her family and paying for her horse that has a lot of health issues. Anyways, that's my shout out for the week. I will hopefully, my plan is to have a video out Friday, Saturday morning at the latest. I have a really fun video planned for later this week, which is part of why this video is late, because there were a few other things that I made that I wasn't ready to reveal yet. But I really appreciate you joining me today. If you enjoyed this video too, please like and maybe subscribe so that we can follow along and chat again for a later update, whether that be the giveaway or my really fun video plan for later this week, or even the market recap for my market that's coming up in a couple weeks. So thanks again, and I hope you have a wonderful day or week. Bye.